everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. It is summer. We just want to have fun in summer, don't we? And to be inspired by people who are living their dreams. So, my guest today is a woman I met, I think it's been a couple of years now. First, she was living in my building. She's in and around Harlem, in and around the New York creative scene as a singer, a songwriter, a script writer. She's just doing it all in the creative space. And I wanted to bring her to you so you could meet someone who is living her dreams. She is Marie-Claire Giraud, an acclaimed soprano, jazz singer, and composer who hails from the tiny island of Dominica. And she is currently thriving in the vibrant art scene of New York City. Recognized with a New York City Caribbean Heritage Award and an NAACP Image Award, her performances have graced stages from Carnegie Hall to Madison Square Garden, Barclays Center, and many more. Amidst her musical achievements, she's also made an impact as a first responder during the COVID-19 pandemic, that wasn't too long ago, serving Lower Manhattan's homeless community. Today, we're going to delve into her latest projects and aspirations, including her upcoming performances in Hawaii and her ventures into musicals and screenplays. Please join me in welcoming Marie-Claire.
Hi, Harriet.
Hi there.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, first of all, Dominica.
Yes.
I've never been there, but do you know Maurice Dubois?
I know of him, but I've never met him.
So he's a good friend of mine, and his parents are from Dominica.
That I know. Yes. It's a
Island.
little island.
Yes, yes. How many people inhabit?
68,000, if that. Yes.
It's for people who do not know Dominica. Where is it in relation to the rest of the Caribbean?
Okay, so Dominica is located between Guadeloupe and Martinique. It's part
Wow.
of the lower part of the Caribbean. So we're basically closer to South America than to the United States, than to Florida.
Right. And that hence your name is a French name. His name is a
Yes.
French name.
Yes. Because
Giraud.
we were both flopping between France and England. Both had ownership of the island at one point or the other.
Yeah, which is a whole nother conversation about how
Another conversation.
other people have owned us, but we own ourselves now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so you were young when you left, but do you remember anything about Dominica as a child?
Well, I left Dominique when I was 4. My mom moved us here, but she brought us back every year, Harriet. So we never lost, my brother and I never lost contact of our heritage on the island. So every summer, every Christmas, every holiday, we were always there. So I was always in tune with Dominica. And even though I grew up in the Bronx, coming into my house, it was like coming to Dominica. The
So what
smells, the
does that
cocoa tea,
mean? Yeah, so what are the smells?
the smells of the cocoa tea brewing in the morning that my grandmother would make with spice and ginger, the saltfish breakfast, all of the basically the seasonings. My grandmother loved to season her food, and so it was very flavorful with spices and richness. So I
Mhm.
never lost touch of Dominica.
And coming from a place that is so small, it's an
Yes,
insular community.
yes.
What would you say are the values and worldview that you bring to your life now that comes from your family heritage?
Well, Dominica is small, but I grew up with a strong work ethic.
Hmm.
I have a lot of professionals in my family, a lot of lawyers, a lot of doctors, no artists, but people who work really hard to get to where they are. And my uncle and my aunt specifically always told me, Mary Claire, no door is closed to you. You can go anywhere, do anything, be anything, but put in the work and always be the best at what you want to do. And no door will be closed. And that's what I trap, that's what I walk with every day.
Now, I love that freedom that comes with
Yes.
that kind of instruction. Also, it is very common, especially for immigrant families, to say, you better be a doctor, a lawyer, or
Yes.
something that says, girl, boy, you are going to make that money. You're going to be safe. There's,
Yes.
I mean, I think our families are always wanting us to be protected and safe and earn a living. You
Yes.
decided to be an artist.
Whew.
So how did that go over? Even though they said you could do anything, when when
Yes.
when the rubber met the road, was anybody saying, "Uh-oh, I don't know about that girl"?
Well, even before I decided to be an opera singer and just a jazz singer. I studied archaeology at Brooklyn College. So when they heard that, they were like, Lord, what are we going to do with this child? So that already was a problem. Then, when I discovered my voice, I told my mom, I'm going to be a singer. They were like, are you insane? First of all, only wealthy people do that. We are not wealthy. We do not have the money. You need to get a job where you can get a pension so you'll be taken care of, secure, and protected. Yes.
Well, because I mean, I had to ask. This is
Yeah,
and
of course.
and by the way, this is just families taking care of their children
Of
when
course.
they say, we want you to do this thing that we consider to be safe, to
Yes.
be, and I understand it totally.
Yes.
I also understand, like for myself, I knew I wanted to be a writer since I was 12 years old. And my father, who was an appellate judge. He was the first Black
Wow.
judge on the Maryland Court of Appeals. And in the appellate system, that is where you write and rewrite laws. So when I told my father I wanted to be a writer, he says, well, he paid for me to take the LSAT, which I did not want to take. Um,
Yes.
and I didn't take it. But anyway, he said, well, the greatest type of writing is the law. And I was like, for you, daddy, not for me. But I understand it. And I can't say I understood it then, but I understand it now because I have a 20-year-old who I am allowing her to do whatever she
Yes.
wants. And it's not the easiest thing to say, do whatever you want, because
Right.
you want them to be safe and have the ability to provide abundance for themselves. And
Yes.
it's possible, as we both know, it's possible.
Yes. It is possible.
And interesting. So you grew up in the Bronx.
In the Bronx. Yes. Very close to Castle Hill, Parkchester area.
Great. And were you in a West Indian community?
Well, the Bronx, as it is, I am filled with all kinds of cultures around me, but it's very rich with the Caribbean culture. Not
Mhm.
only Dominica, but Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad, we're all, as well as Santo Domingo, Haiti, yeah, and now Africa. So it's wonderful, actually.
Because you kind of get to vibe off of each other.
Absolutely. And just living, I say that my grandmother picked the most incredible city to bring her family to, because New York City is just everything. You can be anything, do anything, and see every culture in the world is here.
What made your grandmother make the decision to come to the States?
Well, they wanted something better, not only for themselves, but for their children. And they
Mhm.
first went to Boston, which they did not like at all. And then they decided to come here to New York, and they bought the house that I grew up in. And this is where we've been.
And just curious, how old
Yes.
was your grandmother at that time?
Wow. My grandmother, when she moved to New York, must have been in her late 40s.
Okay, so she was a young woman.
She was a young woman with
Yeah.
4 children, and not only brought her husband, they and their whole family, but she brought her brothers and her sisters and their whole
She was a
family.
powerful woman. I love that.
Powerful, powerful
I
woman, my
love that.
grandmother.
I
Yes.
love that. My husband is from Jamaica, and his grandmother, and followed closely by his mother, came here under
Yes.
the grandmother's direction for
Yes.
the same reason, to make a better life for their children. But I think that his grandmother was in her 60s. Like, she was at the age that if you were in America, you might consider retiring. I don't think
Right.
people really retire in Jamaica, but
Right.
but
Yes.
um but she had this vision for her family, kind of like your grandmother, of how can they have a better life, and
Yes.
what a sacrifice that was, and also what an incredible blessing, as we see, uh,
Yes.
for my husband, for you, for so many people who do come to the land of opportunity. It certainly is that, for
It
sure.
absolutely, it absolutely is. I mean, I look at the lady in the harbor all the time, and I get emotional when I see the Statue of Liberty, because it's so much hope for so still today.
Yeah.
So people look to that, and it inspires so much hope for everyone around the world. So I feel very blessed.
It's interesting that you say that. My daughter, who's in college now, brought her roommate to visit us and our family. So we drove down to Baltimore, where my family is. And as we were driving back to New York, there was a Statue of Liberty, and my husband pointed it out so that she could see it. So this young lady is first generation American. Her family is Kenyan and Somali. And so he's like, "Do you see that? Do you see it?" And she hadn't seen it before, only in pictures or movies. And
Right, right.
there it was. And
Yes,
it means a lot to all of us, and especially to people who are coming here from other places. And
yes,
is the sign, the promise.
yes,
It,
yes,
it is the promise. And so for you, I watched some of your interviews and I heard you describe that, like you mentioned, you were studying archaeology and then you had this moment, like a God intervention that told you that you were supposed to be a singer. Can you
yes.
tell us about that?
Absolutely. So I was in my final year at Brooklyn College, and I started working. I had a part-time job, as all college students do. And a friend of mine who worked in the department with me said, Marika, you have a great voice, and you should pursue this. But your friends tell you all kinds of things, but they're your friends. They're biased. So I happened onto an open mic night, and Harriet, when I touched that stage, when I touched that microphone, it's like the club went away, the people went away, everybody went away, and it's like I had an epiphany. And God, the universe, Buddha said, "Okay, you found it.
This is
You
it.
found it. This is it." And it's like I grew roots of an oak. You could not shake me. You could not shake me. No one could tell me I couldn't sing. I didn't care. I was This is what I was going to do. And the feeling was so cemented and rooted and real and just positive that it could not be wrong.
That's amazing. So you were in college your last year, you said?
Yes, yes,
And so this is interesting because as we are, for those people who go to college, part
yes,
of what I think happens is this self-discovery. Okay, you're in school, you're learning, it's intense learning, but part of that learning is learning who you are.
absolutely.
A big part of it is coming into yourself as an adult. You are away from your family, you are kind of finding your way,
Yes,
and then if you're lucky like you, then you have this moment that says, no,
yes.
this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So you have an epiphany. What happens next?
Then I just went full in. I didn't know how I was going to do it. No idea how I was going to do it. I went to the Caribbean as usual to visit my dad every summer, which I do. And then my best friend was at that time making a trip of the South. So she said, "Why don't you meet me instead of going back to New York, meet me in New Orleans, and we'll make a trip of the South and see which city is best suited for." She was going to do rock and roll. I was going to do jazz at the time. Not really sure where I was going to do in music, but I started with jazz. And we ended up in Austin, Texas,
Hmm.
and I started singing jazz there. Worked for an Italian woman who opened a store there, and that led me to going to Rome to study opera singing. So I just followed. I didn't. I just trusted. I just really trusted in the universe and trusted in my gut feeling, that feeling in the pit of your stomach, and I just followed it.
And so singing, did you grow up in church where you were singing? Like, where did singing come from?
My mother says, Harriet, that I sang before I spoke, and she
Ah.
was and she was a huge Tom Jones fan. So the song was "What's New Pussycat." That's the
Oh
song I was
yeah.
singing.
And
So
you
I
you
thought,
sing a lot of standards now too. So did
yes.
it come from your mom, the music she listened to?
So my grandmother again loved classic cinema, and
Mm,
no one loved it. So I was watching all these classic movies with my granny. So before I started singing the standards, the Great American Songbook, I
yeah.
knew these songs before I sang them, watching them with her. Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers and Duke Ellington and Cap Calloway on the screen with their big bands. I grew up with that. So when I started singing it, they were already in my blood. They're already there.
So she was your Turner Movie Network or
That's
whatever
right.
that's called.
Yeah.
We are so influenced by our families and
Yes.
what they expose us to. I work with many artists, and typically, at least how they start with their music is
Yes.
what mama loved, what daddy loved, what grandma
Yes.
loved. What
Yes.
what was playing in their house
Yes.
is somehow in their DNA. And so this is very interesting that for you the Great American Songbook would be in your DNA, and thanks to your grandma. That's That's fantastic.
So I have a show now, and I call it the Great American Songbook at the Movies, where I take all of the songs that me and my grandmother watched in these movies, and I sing them.
I love that.
Like
I
Duke
love that.
Ellington, Fats Waller, Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, George Gershwin, and it's just a fantastic show.
And that is true homage to your grandmother. What was her name?
Yes,
What is it?
Lorna Buffon.
Lorna Buffon. I love that. Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are having fun today with Marie-Claire Giraud. She is an artist, a
Yes,
singer, a jazz singer, an opera singer, a writer, a creator, and she is living her best life and sharing that with us, and we are so grateful for it. So you venture from New York City to Austin, Texas. And Austin, I
yes,
haven't been there, but I know it's a college town. It
yes,
is in the state of Texas. It's probably one of the most liberal
absolutely,
places.
absolutely.
And I hear very welcoming. And so how were you treated there?
I was treated wonderfully because I always walk with a positive attitude, Harriet, and I'm always open and welcoming. And that has served me very well in my life. So going to Austin was absolutely a beautiful experience. Not only did I start singing jazz, but I sang Patsy Cline songs in a little honky tonk bar called Henry's. And they were absolutely welcoming. And then I discovered my operatic voice in Austin as well.
And so then going to Rome,
Yes.
because I want, people who are connected through the show are often looking for how they can leap into their dreams, what can be next for
Yes.
them. You leave college and you're doing this. How are you making money? How are you financing these dreams that you are manifesting? How is that working?
I always say that God opens the path, the universe opens the path. You just have to listen
Mm.
and be open to it. You really have to listen and listen to yourself as well. Listen to yourself. Um, I've always worked since I was 14 years old. I've been working, whether part-time, full-time, and I've always had a job. And that's what's propelled me forward everywhere I go.
That's awesome. And so Italy comes to
Yes.
you, like there's an opportunity.
Yes.
Do you go to a school? What is it exactly that you're going to
So
study opera?
So the woman that I worked with in Austin, Genevieve Vaughn, she wasn't Italian, but she married an Italian. She came from old Texas money, and she had a store called the Four Directions, where I started working, and it had indigenous art, culture, music from the four directions of the world. And she said she was going to open a store in Italy, in Rome. I said, well, Genevieve, I want to study opera singing. Can I go work in your store? She said, you know what, Marie Claire? Yeah, let's start you on some Italian lessons and you'll go. So said, so done. I was on my way to Rome, land in Rome on Women's Day, go to the march. Every photographer is around me, Harry, and I get my picture in every paper practically.
Now, what year is this?
This is early 2000s.
Okay.
Yes.
So you get there to acclaim.
I get there to Acclaim, start working in this little store, find a teacher, Maestro Guido Caputo. Then Maestro Guido gets in contact with his friend who's a professor at the Conservatory of Santa Cecilia, Professor Frascati, and he hears me. So I started training with them both.
That's amazing.
I had a scooter in Rome, and I had a Vespa right there in the center. It was a magical time.
How long
Magical.
were you there?
2 years, 2 to 3 years, almost 3 years.
Wow. So you spent nearly 3 years as a young woman in Rome,
Yes. Yes.
discovering yourself, your artistry. What was it like there?
It was magical, especially being an archaeology student and actually studying all of these amazing works of art and archaeology paintings. So to actually be in the center of Rome, walking by the Colosseum, walking by the Vatican, seeing the Sistine Chapel for myself, as well as paintings by Caravaggio, Raphael, Leonardo da Vinci. I was inspired every day. I was literally inspired every day.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
And you learned opera, which is not easy to learn. First of all,
I'm still learning.
there you go. You're learning Italian.
Yes.
It's storytelling. It's not just singing, but it's really storytelling these soap operas
Yes,
in another
yes,
language.
yes.
What was that like? But just diving into that experience.
Well, a famous composer once told me, John Harbison, that it always starts with the lyrics.
Hmm.
So whatever, no matter what you're singing, from jazz to musical theater to opera, you start with the word. So that was very implemental for me, especially with learning Italian, to start with the word because I learned even faster. So once you know the words, what you're singing about, you get to translate it and make it your own version. Of course, singing opera, you have to honor the composer and their music, but you get to put in what the character means to you. And that's how you bring in your interpretation of it.
So when you come back home,
Yes.
how welcomed were you in the United States for bringing your artistry, your newfound love of opera? Where do you land and what performances are you engaged in the beginning?
I went from Rome to going to LA for a year and a half to study with a professor there. So it was just more continuation of my study with another coach, as well as being in Los Angeles, classic movies. I lived practically behind the Warner Brothers lot, which was just another incredible, where I walk by sets from Casablanca, A Star is Born, Singing in the Rain. Yes. So, and then coming back to New York, I made my first debut at Carnegie Hall.
So this is impressive. Your debut. You
Yes.
come home and you go to one of the most treasured music halls to perform. How did that happen?
So I had a very great teacher, Raymond Buckingham, that I studied with here. He introduced me to Maestro Vincent LaSalva, who had Opera New York, and he loved my voice so much. It was very last minute, but he put me on the recital with four other opera singers, and I made my first debut at Carnegie Hall.
What's and this was opera.
Opera, yes, yes.
And were you as a solo artist? What was the performance?
It was solo singers, so each singers like sang three arias, but I was singing as a mezzo. You know, being a black opera singer, black opera singers, well, black singers, period. We have a certain timbre to our voice. We have a naturally dark. It's I can almost describe it to burnished copper. There's like a bright, there's a darkness to it, which can be confusing because it leads people to believe that we're another category than we are another folk. So I have this low, like almost like a Sarah Vaughan quality, low richness to my voice, but I'm not a mezzo nor a contralto. I'm actually a soprano. So that led to a few difficulties down the road.
How did you figure out you were a soprano?
Well, because I was getting into vocal problems, because the voice was being pushed down too far and not singing where it was supposed to be, I
Mhm.
went through, I went to different speech paths, and they told me that basically you're singing the wrong category. And my present teacher, Anthony Manoli, told me that yeah, this is you're definitely you're not a contralto, you're not a mezzo, you're a soprano, and the notes
Those
are
are so
just
different.
yes, but it's the people are listening to the color, not the sound.
All right. So for people who don't understand what the heck that means, what is the difference between color and sound in a voice?
Right. So color, you can be confused with. So, for instance, two singers, let's say Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald, they can sing night and day, but it'll sound two different ways. Ella has a brighter voice, lighter voice. Sarah has that velvety, rich tones on the bottom, but they're both the same voice category almost, but they sound different. Let alone you have Sarah Vaughan, Doris Day singing the same song, even bigger difference, but same voice category, but the sound is different,
It's
if that
fascinating.
makes sense.
Well, it does for the elementary school of it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people who understand much better, but you made a good effort, and I kind of understand.
Okay.
I mean, clearly, people's voices are different. They bring to anything that they're performing their whole self, which is different. But
Yes.
my mother is a soprano. My mother is 94 years old. She's still
Wow.
singing, but she
God
sang
bless.
choir at her church until she was 88.
That's incredible.
And she is a soprano. And while her speaking voice has a little quiver in it, which is
Yes.
common for an elder.
Yes.
She can still sing,
That
which
is
is
fantastic.
fantastic. It really is
Wow.
something to behold. And when she does,
Yes.
it's through the being of a 94-year-old. But when she's singing, the place where she lives, the people are like, "Ooh, Doris is singing." When we were growing up, she would play the piano and sing on the weekends, and it was
Oh,
just one of the most exquisite experiences, her bringing music into the house, really,
what a
really
wonderful experience
special.
for you guys growing up. That has been wonderful.
Absolutely. And my younger sister, Stephanie, sings. She's been on the choir in her church since she was a little girl. And
Wow.
she's a professional in the world of STEM, but she
Yes.
still is on the choir and
Yes.
sings regularly. And during COVID,
Wow.
was very involved that's when all the churches had their remote ministries, and she helped them
Yes.
set that up and also sang. That was a fascinating thing to see her know, like when choirs would be in different places and they would figure out how to synchronize their voices across
Oh my
tech.
God. That was wonderful. Yes.
That
Yes.
that
Yes.
was that was a wonderful use of technology
Absolutely. I would
that
agree with you.
yeah, that I think is really special. Now, as I mentioned in the open, during COVID,
Yes.
you were moved to serve.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that? Because COVID is not that far away, and I really
No.
think that there were many things that occurred, even though it was terrible. There were very good things that happened in terms of people taking care of each other, and you
Yes.
participated in that. Tell us what you did.
So before COVID, I was an executive assistant for parks for one of the parks commissioners. So when COVID happened, um, we couldn't go to work. All offices closed. So my boss called me and they said, Miracle, you're still getting your salary, whether you want to do this or not, but we want to offer you this opportunity. Would you like to go down to Lower Manhattan? You go to one of the parks there, check in every day, and they would give me supplies of hand sanitizers, masks, and gloves. I would have my Parks badge on me, and I would distribute all this stuff to the homeless people of Lower Manhattan. And it was an incredible experience. First of all, to see New York with no one, no cars, no cars.
That was the strangest thing
Canal Street and
ever.
Broadway was nothing.
Yeah,
I literally walked up and down Broadway and there was nobody there.
yeah.
And the police would stop me sometimes, but I had my badge and I
You
told
were
them what I was doing.
official.
I was official. Yes. And COVID, not only that, but COVID gave me a tremendous opportunity to work on myself
Mm.
because as I said before, I listen to my instincts and to my gut a lot. And it never steers me wrong. And it said, Mary Claire, you can either work on yourself now, do the work that, even though I thought I did that work, Harriet, I really didn't. You can either do it now when you have the time, because you'll never have this opportunity again to do this like this. And I took the opportunity. And from that, Harriet, came my creativity exploded. It exploded even more than before. It was the best thing I ever did for myself.
That I've talked to so many people who really offered themselves in service, and the bounty of blessings that came
Yes.
as a result of simply reaching out and helping people because it was the right thing to do, and their
Yes.
hearts said, "Do this." And what happened? I mean, it is proof because we hear these stories. Your mama tells you, your grandma, your minister,
Yes.
whoever. If you do good, good things will happen to you. If
That's
you
right.
treat people well, you will be treated well. And when people are feeling contracted and feeling less than, feeling like they don't have whatever they need, very, very often they can't understand that message.
That's right.
And yet it is true.
It
And
is
it's
very true.
instantly true.
Yes. So I was happy. I was very happy to every day, 5 days a week, I went down with my supplies and my bags and the homeless, and I would meet the same homeless people. And they got to know, at first they were very apprehensive, but over time, they said, there comes MC with our stuff. And I
Love
would,
that. MC. All right. I love it. Hey
I would
guys,
hand out
this
all this.
is
Yes.
Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are talking with Marie Claire Giraud, going down memory lane, good things that occurred during the pandemic, and just the blessings that come when you treat people well. I mean,
Yes.
I really want to emphasize that point because too often people are selfish, they're contracted, they want to hold on to everything, and that is just not the way to live.
It's not the way to live. It's not the way at all. You know, I was brought up Catholic. I say I'm recovering, but but the truest thing Jesus Christ ever said, do unto others as you would like it to be done unto you. And that is, yes,
And we know that it works, and
yes,
we just need to remind each other. So I hope everybody in earshot of us is taking this message in. Great things happen when you treat people well, not
absolutely,
because you want to get something out of it, just because that's the way we're supposed to interact with each other.
absolutely.
Okay, MC,
Yes.
let me ask you, your career, you have recorded a number of different, pieces, and you
Yes.
sent us something that you just recorded. So can you tell us about this?
Yes.
And then I want all of us to listen to this recording. So what is it that we're about to hear?
So are about to hear Duke Ellington's song Caravan. That I love. This is one of my favorite standards of all time, and because I think it evokes a dream, a vibe, a dream. You get an essence that when Duke and his other musicians put this down, pen to paper, that they wanted to convey a place, a feeling, and my version of Caravan, I literally wanted you to feel like you were crossing the Sahara.
Mm,
You know, you heard the sounds of Africa in the music. That's why I have, it's not only the piano, the upright bass, the drums, and the trumpet, but the African drums are there, and the African instrument, the the oud is there as well.
all
And you
right,
hear my operatic vocalese that I wanted to feel like that's the wind going through the desert.
beautiful. So let's take a listen.
Night and stars that shine above so bright, the magic of their fading light that shines upon our caravan. Sleep upon my shoulders as we creep across the sand so I may keep the memory of our caravan. This is so exciting. You are so inviting. Resting in my arms as I thrill to the magic charm of you. Beside me here beneath the blue,
Yes, over the weekend in Boston.
And so what happens next? So for people who want to be artists, it starts with making it happen, not just dreaming about it, but taking action. So what happens after you've laid it down? What's next?
So Plaid Dog Records, which is where I recorded in Boston, they approached me online, said that they heard me, they found me, I think on YouTube, and they want to offer me the opportunity to record a full-length jazz album through, and they have this wonderful strategy of crowdfunding, which I was a little bit apprehensive about because I was like, can I raise the money? I don't know. So we raised the money. I raised even more than I thought I needed for Caravan.
Good.
And so we're going to use Caravan to raise money for the rest of the album. It's going to be a 10-track jazz album entitled Caravan.
Beautiful. And you know
Yes.
what? What's interesting is that now there's freedom
Yes.
that many artists and creators have found in making music without being aligned with traditional record
Record
companies. And there's
companies.
nothing wrong with traditional record
Right.
companies, but not everybody makes that relationship. And the fact that you can create
Yes.
music and get it out there, even if you don't have that relationship, is, I think, very welcoming for a lot of artists.
But I understand being an independent artist, I understand how welcoming being signed to a label is because it's expensive.
Ooh,
All these things is add up quick.
they
And
do.
and if you want something of a certain quality and a certain level, you have to pay for that. And yes.
And I think another thing, just as you're describing, that happens when you get to look at the industry on different sides,
Yes.
can have a growing appreciation for the whole process. Because very often people complain, oh, the record company takes so much money. And I'm not saying that they don't,
Right.
but all of these elements that go into it, that they are advancing artists, and sometimes the money is made back, and often it is not made back.
That's right. That's right.
So there's a risk involved, and it's just complicated.
It's
Being able to offer your creativity to the world, getting it to the world, building an audience that people
yes.
will be, you will have an audience of people who will support you. That's a lot of elements.
There's a lot of elements to combine, and then you add social media to that, which adds another layer because everything is about perception and how you are perceived online through Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and all these other platforms.
And so let's talk about that for a minute, because there's the creative side, which you have been exploring since you were a young woman, and the business side, the
Yes.
marketing side. How do you approach marketing your creativity?
Well, I have a great team, a manager. I just got signed to a booking agent that signed me not only to opera, but for jazz as well, Kenneth Carroll Agency out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I have my publicist that is in France, Olivia Long. So the world right now, you don't necessarily need to be in one place
Yeah.
with everyone. You can be all over the place, but still connect. And there's a strategy. There has to be a strategy in everything. And it's basically how do you want to be perceived by the public? And perception is a very narrow needle online as to what the perception is. And I've always wanted to appear classy, warm, elegant, well spoken, and
Well,
friendly.
you know what, you mentioned this, and I'm actually teaching a course this fall on branding, because what people aren't necessarily paying close enough attention to is what message are you saying about yourself,
That's
whether
right.
you're conscious of it or not.
That's right.
And you can be an artist or just a regular person walking down the street, but those things that you described about yourself, I will say, as I see you reflecting those things. So that's
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Very often people do not. I remember one time, Marie Claire, I was working with an artist. I will not say his name. This is many years ago, because I do a lot of artist development and media training. And so I was working with this guy who had an incredibly soulful album.
Yes.
And he came into the session for media training, and he was all jokes. Everything was a comedy. Everything was, you know, he was just being a clown.
Yes.
And so I said to him, you can waste your time and your money,
Right.
or we can start working. And he says, well, I don't need this. And I said, okay, your people hired me to help you. And then I said, look, think about this. Your music that you made suggests that you are like in the line of the great soul singers of all time.
Right.
The way you are behaving is like a clown. If you continue, no one will believe that you made the music. They'll think it's a lie. And if they think it's a lie, they won't buy your music. And
Right.
finally, after that, he sat down, he settled down, and agreed to work together.
Wow.
Turned out to do so well. He is an incredible singer. He was an incredible singer then, but his persona became aligned with the music that he made.
Yes.
And I get it. Sometimes people are like, I can do whatever I want. I made the project, so it's done. But there's the project and the promotion of the project.
That's right.
And if they don't go together, then you will lose your way.
Right. And then there's another aspect to that. I've always wanted to convey two looks in my performance, whether my performance in my profiles of classic jazz, the classic jazz of Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway. I love these two gentlemen. I love the idea of these two gentlemen, the look of these two gentlemen. Josephine Baker, Dorothy Dandridge, all just Lena Horne, you know, that kind of just sculpted, beautiful, exquisite style. But then on the flip side of that, have African queens, ancient queens with long flowing gowns, long flowing hair. So those are the juxtapositions that I go between.
Well, and what I love about that, Marie Claire, and I think for everybody listening, we can take all the elements of our life as we build our lives and use them at different points. So your archaeology,
Yes.
that sense of history and honoring history from the African queens to
Yes.
queens of jazz
Yes.
and Hollywood of yesteryear, all
Yes.
of that influences who you are today. So I think it's important for people to understand you could pivot in your life. We have many chapters in our lives if we're lucky enough to live a long time.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean you have to slam the door on something. There may be elements of another part of your life that can be used today.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. And I'm glad you see that. You brought in the archaeology because it's all of that history that's in this brain that I bring to. And when I want to wear, like when I want to embody ancient queens, African queens, I go to the Met Museum, you know, and I look at the flowing gowns, go to the Egyptian section, the African section. Why Egypt and Africa is separated, that's another conversation.
We know.
Yes, yes. And Greco-Roman gowns. It's all of that that conveys opulence, you
Yeah.
know, luxury,
And power,
and power. Yes, yes,
which is all good. Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. I'm so happy that we're spending this time together today with Marie Claire Giraud. She is sharing her story and we are enjoying every little bit of it. So thinking about moving forward, you know, this
yes,
is summer 2024.
yes,
We're living in the heat and trying to manage through it, but also just in the joy of being present in the summer. What are you doing now? Are there performances that people can come to see, and how can they learn more about your work?
yes. So my next performance will be in Hawaii. I won a classical competition, the Hawaii International, and I'll be singing soprano repertoire at the winners concert on August 10th in Honolulu. Then the next day, I fly to Maui, where I sing 3 concerts for the Jazz Sunset Series in Maui on August 18th, 19th, and 20th. Then I come back to New York and I'm at Michael and Victoria Imperioli's Jazz Speakeasy, Scarlet, on September 16th from 7 to 10 p.m.
And where is that?
83rd in Amsterdam.
Beautiful. So you're
Yes.
busy.
I'm a busy gal.
And so now Caravan, you're also building that album. What is
Yes.
your time frame for building it? And when will this single that we got to preview, when will it be available for people?
Actually, as we're speaking, my producer, Mike Davidson of Plaid Dog Recordings, he sent me the final mix. We are launching the full length campaign on Monday, and we will have a month. I will have a month to raise all the funds for
How will
this.
people be able to find the campaign?
I have a link that I can send you, and then maybe you can put it on.
That's
Yes,
great.
and
That's
it's
perfect.
gonna and the album is called Caravan, and it's just going to be it's going to be magical. I'm so excited about this project.
That is great. And do you have a website?
I do. www.marieclairgiraud.com.
And the music that you have recorded thus far, because we
Yes.
just listened to this jazz, what else is in your repertoire of recordings today?
I have an opera album as well that I will be putting that is being mixed right now, actually, that will be coming out next month. Which will be audio and video,
Nice.
as well as the album, the jazz album will be audio and video as well, which is going to be wonderful.
And so, what advice would you give to people who are dreaming about being performers and may have a little trepidation about it? Based upon your life and what you have achieved, what advice would you give to them?
The first step is always the hardest, but once you make that first step, the universe complies. And if you have the talent, and the most important thing, do the work. Do the work. Nothing comes without work. Nothing comes easy. And if you truly love to sing, if you truly love to act, if you truly love to write, put in the work. Never miss a day. Follow the steps. Even if you don't take, one step, two steps, three steps, if you take half a step, you're moving forward. Mistakes are never failures. Mistakes are a positive thing because we learn from mistakes. So never be afraid to fall. When you fall, you pick yourself back up, you dust yourself off, and you learn from it and you move forward.
Now, that sounds good. And
Yes.
when you're in the throes of it, when you feel your confidence is dashed, you didn't have a good day, how have you picked yourself up? What do? You, Marie Claire, when the energy isn't there, the dazzle isn't there, what do you do?
I move forward. I just walk forward. You have to put one foot in front of the other. Life is all about change and it's all about movement. Nothing is stagnant in life. And if you see anything stagnant, it's usually rotting. So you
Mm,
never want to do that. You want to keep moving. Even if I have horrible days where I have a vocal lesson, it's not going well. But in that, even if you think it's the worst day, there is something to come out of that. There is something to come out of that because if we do not have bad days, we can never enjoy the good ones.
there is a very good point. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your inspiring journey with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, Harry. This has been absolutely wonderful.
And thank you to all of you for joining Dream Leapers. I hope you are as inspired as I am. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.